In this video, we're going to look at some of the landmarks that are formed by multiple bones. Now, we're looking at the bottom of the skull. There's the face for reference. And we're going to find our foramen magnum first, because that's an easy landmark to identify. If we travel laterally from the foramen magnum, we find our styloid process. Next to this styloid process, we have a very, very large opening. It's kind of irregularly shaped. Let me put my pointer through it here so we can see there's the opening there. If we flip the skull over, we can see it coming out here and right over here. Now, this landmark sits between our temporal bone and occipital bone. This is known as the jugular foramen. The jugular foramen is an opening for the internal jugular vein and three of our cranial nerves. The glossopharyngeal, vagus, and accessory nerves also travel through this, which is why this opening is so big. Now, there's an easy trick to remembering our jugular foramen. If I look directly in front of the jugular foramen, I can see my carotid canal. So here's the carotid canal, here is the jugular foramen. C comes before J because arteries come before veins. That's the way I remember it. So our carotid canal's in front, our jugular foramen's in the back. The internal jugular vein is going to be draining blood out of the skull down into the neck. The Latin word jugular means neck, so it's telling you where the blood is going. The next feature we're going to mention is in the orbit, so we're going to tilt the skull over so we're looking into the eyes. Remember, this gap up here we called the superior orbital fissure. Notice how we have a bottom gap. That bottom gap is called the inferior orbital fissure. This sits between the sphenoid bone and maxilla, the sphenoid bone and the ethmoid bone, and a couple of other bone features. So that's our inferior orbital fissure and the superior orbital fissure up there. The last feature we're going to mention is this bar of bone that we see on the side of the skull. This is called our zygomatic arch because when we look at it, notice how it's shaped just like an arch. The zygomatic arch is formed by our zygomatic bone and the temporal bone. So this part of the zygomatic arch is actually part of the temporal bone. This serves as an important attachment site for the big muscles that allow us to chew, so our mastication muscles.